I ask you this question, which is harder for you right now? When you think about the career that you have now and the subject matters that you touch on, you are also somebody that I happen to know you've been on this show, your aspirations to be a politician, being a mayor of Sacramento one day, being a governor, hell with you, being a senator, possibly a presidential candidate. I don't rule anything out with you. As you look, as you discuss this subject with me and what I said about Trump and the stuff with Westbrook, you juxtapose the sports to the political atmosphere. Which do you prefer?
I prefer life, and I pride myself on educating myself as much as I can before I speak, because I feel like all aspects we touch. I mean, I was a former athlete. Great. That was a small part of my life. So obviously I love sports. I'm a father, so I'm indulged in that. I've been through a public divorce, so I've been indulged in that. Politics interests me. At first, it wasn't so much the policy. It was the former mayor of Sacramento, Kevin Johnson, being a former NBA player and seeing him clean up Oak Park, the same streets my auntie had her throat slit and died in the gutter. So I saw that kind of encouraged me to like, man, I don't really know what all this policy stuff is, but I see what he's doing in his hometown, and that's beautiful. So that was kind of where it kind of lit the fire in my late 20s, early 30s. So I like to be versed and understand. I mean, this politic world, and and a lot of people know, it's messy on both sides. Vicious. And at the end of the day, this whole entire world, big United States we only have these two guys to pick from. And it's crazy now because before you just used to disagree on policy. Now there's almost a line in the sand. Like if you like Trump, he's a dog whistleblower to hate groups and wants to pardon all the June 6th people and calls, minorities thugs so it's just like, and then on the flip side, you got Biden out there falling asleep on the world. You know what I mean? So it's just like, what do we really have to? And if you're on one side or the other, it's almost like there's real animosity and hate towards the other side. So politics has always been a very slippery slope. But I think to answer your question, I just try to be as versed as I can in life because I feel like I can speak intelligently on a lot of different levels, but that doesn't come with backlash, criticism, or scrutiny. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do, some people are going to like it. So like a referee, half the people are going to like it, half the people are going to hate it. So it is just what it is. So I just try to prepare myself as well as I could every time I speak on different issues outside of the bubble that people know me in, and try to get my point across.
I want to get your opinion about what I'm going to say about myself, so you understand where I'm coming from, and you'll know for future references with your shows whenever my name comes up, because chances are it'll come up again. I struggle politically. I'm going to be real straight up and down with you. I voted for one Republican in my life. That's Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey years ago, because I thought that the predecessor was a crook, okay? That's it. I've been a consistent voter for the Democratic Party because the number one thing that they've done for black people, in my estimation, was give us access to capital. That's something we don't talk about enough. When we think about things from an historical perspective, spanning the last 50 plus years and what have you, from, civil rights legislation being put into law to other things that have transpired, they've given us access to capital. And there's an appreciation for that, big time, because when you talk about, generational wealth, when you talk about economic empowerment, I think we should look at the Democratic Party as a black community and be thankful for the access to capital. But it's a deeper subject when we think about the times that have changed, some of the things that have been said, used, utilized, et cetera, et cetera. And the biggest thing that I have a problem with, Matt, is I can't stand being transparent in a political sense. I can't stand everybody knowing exactly what I think, how I feel, and how I'm going to vote, because I think that gives one party a license to take you for granted because they know they got your vote, and the other party a license to ignore you and say the hell with you because we don't have your support. And I believe that's what has led to the disenfranchisement of the black community in this country. That's why a lot of times I come across as keeping an open mind, because I want to hear what other people have to say. I want them to know folks are listening, and maybe they'll try to flatter our community to do more for us than they've been doing, whatever side that is. In this day and age, because of Trump and his divisive self, it's almost like we can't take that position, because I'm afraid he's going to cause civil war in this country. Other people feel what they're going to feel about him. And as a result, you got to vote against him or else. You got to vote for him or else. And that divide, to me, is what has us as a community in a
I
quandary
agree.
because we're no longer the dominant minority. Those are the Hispanics, the Latinos. We only make up about 13.6% of the population. That's where I'm coming from when I'm thinking in terms of just listening to what other people have to say. If I go buy a house, I go buy a car, I want to inspect it, I want to look at it, I want to decide, as opposed to being transparent with what I'm going to do. And I don't think the times allows us for that level of
Mm-mm.
transparency thinking. Your
No,
thoughts?
no, I would agree. I would agree. It's again, there's been a line drawn in the sand, and it's you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you're a Biden person, you're attacked for his mishaps. If you're a Trump person, you are and you're a minority. Like, how can you support someone who is, again, a dog whistleblower to hate, the Proud Boys. You tell them what, stand down and stand by. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, there's just little
Yep.
things he's done, big things he's done to blatantly to disrespect and divide this country. I feel like before Trump was on the ballot,
Totally.
although there was racism, I think it went to a new level of racism when he allowed the people who love him the most to kind of really start having a voice. So I think to answer your question, Stephen A., it's very tough. When I got into this, I feel like in the Black and brown community, we were never meant to have a voice or a foot or a saying in this space. We didn't grow up talking about it at the dinner table. We didn't very few of us very early on, right when we turned 18, were voting, because that's not something we're trying to survive. We're not even thinking outside of our houses and then outside of our communities. But the way I kind of started approaching politics early on was, seeing immediate turnaround, and that's in your local cities and your local states. I think bite-sized pieces are where it's at, because you'll see some turnaround, immediate turnaround, and that'll probably light the ball, light the fuse to want to explore on a higher level. So, I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in this, this presidential race. But I just think when I speak on politics, I feel like there's so much you can do on your local city level and state level to see immediate turnaround and kind of just understand what your community is about, what your community needs. And that's where I encourage people to go out and spend most of their focus. The presidential situation, what Trump has caused over these last 8+ years is a complete divide, and it's unfortunate. And I don't see it again. I feel like hate is as big as it's ever been, although it's not like it used
Yeah.
to be back in the day. It's hiding out there. It's in the police officers, it's in
It's
the
bad.
government, it's in the courts, it's in the doctors, it's everywhere. It's in the day-to-day people. We probably work with some people who hate us because of the color of our skin. So I just
How
think we're
about
in
that?
a bad time, and I don't see it turning around as long as Trump's name has continued to be echoed and muttered in whatever fashion.
I feel you on that. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about my positions before I let you go, my brother? Because I
No, man,
know
I
eventually I'm gonna
love
get
you,
a
brother.
call from you. I don't know if I'm gonna answer Stat call. I don't know. Since he didn't answer
No.
mine, but I'm gonna answer yours. I'm only playing though. You know I'll answer
I
him if
got
he
it.
calls.
I got a lot of love for you, Stephen A. And that's also some real shit, because again, our journey is 20+ years, and agree. We always don't have to agree with what each other said, but you've always been somebody who's willing to have that conversation, whether you've been right, whether you've been wrong, whether you feel you've been right and you found out you were wrong. You're willing to have that conversation. And I just think that's something that people can grow from, because again, I think it's where we're always at each other's necks, whether it's media versus athletes, athletes versus athletes, media versus media, presidential versus, we're always at each other's necks. And instead of understanding that a conversation can change the world, a conversation can solve anything. So I definitely want to salute you, because you've always been willing to have that conversation. I'm always respect that.
I'm always here for you, man. Got a lot of love for you, man. I appreciate you, bro. How often is All the Smoke on these days, man? How
So
many episodes you doing?
we're every Thursday on All the Smoke Productions YouTube and DraftKings Network. Every Monday we release Unplugged, which is a weekly show spin around the culture. And then Friday night, We TV, 7 p.m. Pacific, The Barnes Bunch. If you miss it there, you can stream it on All Black.
Man, we did listen. I watched the episode of Barnes, but you're not bad, bro. I like what I'm saying, bro. I mean, you got some potential, my
Appreciate
brother.
it.
You got some
Appreciate it,
potential, no
man.
doubt.